Before Christmas was ever linked to the birth of Christ, the world already had a powerful midwinter tradition, one rooted in fear, survival, and the hope that light would return. We think of Christmas as joy and light, but its origins are far darker than most imagine. Before it was holy, it was pagan. Before it was peaceful, it was terrifying. This is the hidden, darker side of Christmas. Across ancient Rome, the festival of Saturnalia erupted every December. It was a celebration where order collapsed. Slaves sat at the table as masters, streets filled with drunken chaos, and gifts were exchanged to appease the god Saturn. It wasn't about joy. It was about keeping the darkness at bay. Further north, the Norse celebrated Yule. Massive fires blazed through frozen villages, honoring the sun's rebirth during the longest night of the year. People believed that spirits, both good and evil, crossed into the world of the living. Odin himself was said to ride through the sky on his wild hunt, a haunting image that would later echo in the legend of Santa's sleigh. These were not gentle traditions. They were rituals of protection, sacrifice, and survival. And when Christianity began to spread, it didn't erase them. It adapted them. The roots of Christmas grew from this ancient darkness, from a world fighting the cold with fire, chaos, and myth. As Christianity spread through Europe, Christmas didn't become peaceful. In fact, it became wilder. During the Middle Ages, Christmas evolved into a season of unruly celebration. It was loud, chaotic, and often violent, a winter carnival where the rules of society dissolved. One of the strangest traditions was the rise of the Lord of Misrule. A commoner, often a young man or even a child, was chosen to act as a mock king. Under his command, people danced in the streets, drank to excess, and mocked authority. Priests were parodied, nobles were ridiculed, and the lines between sacred and profane blurred into madness. Across towns and villages, bands of carolers known as wassailers roamed at night. But they weren't the friendly singers we know today. They demanded food, drink, or money. And when refused, they often turned threatening. Christmas night became a time when homes bolted their doors, not opened them. Even the churches struggled to contain the chaos. Some records describe drunken gatherings inside holy spaces, people singing, shouting, or even gambling on the church floor. The holiday meant to honor peace had spiraled into something uncontrollable. By the late medieval period, Christmas had gained a reputation not as a holy day, but as a dangerous one. Authorities feared it. Priests condemned it. Yet the people celebrated anyway, turning winter into a season of both joy and disorder. This was the Christmas the church couldn't tame, and soon they would try to ban it entirely. By the 1600s, Christmas had become too wild, too chaotic, too pagan for the rising tide of religious reform. In England, the Puritans, strict, disciplined, and hostile to any form of excess, declared that the holiday had strayed far from Christianity. To them, Christmas was nothing more than a continuation of ancient pagan rituals, wrapped in a thin Christian disguise. So they did something almost unthinkable. They banned Christmas. Shops were ordered to stay open on December 25th. Churches were forbidden from holding special services. Soldiers patrolled the streets, tearing down decorations and confiscating food prepared for feasts. Anyone caught celebrating, even quietly, risked fines or punishment. For a time, England lived through a winter with no Christmas at all. But the ban didn't stop at the English border. Across the Atlantic in the American colonies, the Puritans enforced the same strict laws. In Boston, celebrating Christmas was officially illegal. and remained so for over 20 years. And yet, people resisted. Secret gatherings took place behind closed doors. Families lit candles in hidden rooms. Feasts were shared in silence, away from the eyes of authorities. Christmas became a symbol of rebellion, a forbidden spark of joy kept alive in the darkness. The attempt to erase Christmas ultimately failed, but it revealed something important. This holiday was never purely holy, nor purely pagan. It was a battleground of beliefs, cultures, and power. And as Christmas returned, it brought with it creatures and legends far darker than any Puritan law. For centuries, the winter season wasn't ruled by Santa, but by monsters. Across Europe, people believed that December was a time when spirits roamed freely, hunting for the wicked, and sometimes even for the innocent. In the Alpine regions, one creature struck more fear than any other. Krampus, half goat, half demon, wrapped in chains and carrying a bundle of birch sticks. While St. Nicholas rewarded the good, Krampus dragged the bad into the night. In some legends, he beat them. In others, he devoured them. On December 5th, Krampusnacht, entire villages claimed to hear bells echoing through the darkness, announcing his arrival. Further east, another winter spirit roamed the snow. Frau Perchta, a ghostly woman with a white cloak, sometimes beautiful, sometimes horrifying. She visited homes during the 12 nights of Christmas. If she found children lazy or disobedient, she was said to cut open their stomachs and replace their organs with straw. But to the hardworking, she offered gifts. Winter spirits were never purely evil, just brutally fair. In German folklore, and later in early America, another figure roamed the forests. Belsnickel, dirty, wild, dressed in furs, carrying a switch in one hand and treats in the other. He tested children, forcing them to prove themselves. Behave, and you might receive sweets. Fail, and you would feel the sting of his whip. But perhaps the strangest creature of all comes from Iceland. Jólakötturinn, the Yule cat. A massive, monstrous black cat that prowled the snowy countryside during Christmas night, hunting people who didn't receive new clothes for the winter. In a harsh climate where survival depended on preparation, this legend served as a chilling reminder. Those who didn't work, didn't live. And deeper in Icelandic lore was Grýla, an ancient giantess who feasted on misbehaving children. According to the sagas, she could hear their cries year-round. And during the dark winter months, she came down from the mountains to collect them. Modern Christmas has tamed these legends, turning them into decorations and costumes. But for centuries, they were real warnings, tools of discipline, stories meant to control behavior in the harshest season of the year. These creatures remind us that Christmas was never only about joy. It was also about fear. The fear of winter, of hunger, of the unknown. And from that fear came some of the darkest myths ever told. While monsters haunted the winter nights, the people themselves performed rituals that today would seem strange, unsettling, even frightening. In the far north, winter meant almost total darkness. To survive it, people lit giant Yule logs, entire trees dragged into the village and burned for days. The fire wasn't just warmth, it was protection. It was believed to scare away spirits, demons, and the forces of winter itself. If the fire died too soon, it was considered a bad omen for the coming year. Across medieval Europe, groups of masked men, known as mummers, roamed from house to house. Dressed in hideous costumes or animal skins, they performed chaotic plays, demanded food and drink, and often acted out crude, violent scenes. With their identities hidden, the rules of society vanished. For one night, anyone could be the villain. Some communities feared the mummers so much that they barred their doors during Christmas time. The cheerful wassailing we imagine today was once far more intimidating. Groups would march through towns, singing loudly, banging on doors, and demanding offerings of ale or food. If they were refused, they wouldn't simply walk away. They cursed the household, damaged property, or turned violent. It was a tradition balanced between celebration and extortion. In Norse and early Germanic cultures, Christmas, or Yule, involved sacrifices, most commonly a boar offered to the gods. The ritual symbolized strength, protection, and survival. But it also reminded everyone that winter was a season of death, and that offerings were needed to ensure life returned in spring. We think of ghost stories as something for Halloween, but in the 1800s, Christmas was the true season of the supernatural. Families gathered around the fire to share tales of spirits, hauntings, and winter apparitions, believing that the veil between worlds was thinnest on the coldest nights. All these rituals, the masks, the fires, the sacrifices, the spirits, paint a picture of a time when winter was terrifying. And Christmas wasn't just a celebration, it was a shield, a way to survive the darkness. After centuries of chaos and fear, Christmas needed a new identity, and in the 1800s, that transformation finally began. Charles Dickens led the change. His story, A Christmas Carol, shifted the holiday away from wild street celebrations and turned it into a family-centered day of kindness, charity, and reflection. At the same time, industrialization made gifts cheaper, traditions more organized, and the idea of a warm, cozy Christmas more appealing than ever. Even Santa Claus was reinvented, transformed from a mysterious winter figure into the cheerful, red-suited icon we know today. Bit by bit, Christmas was tamed. The darkness pushed aside, replaced with comfort, family, and light. So when you celebrate, remember, Christmas wasn't always the way it is now. Thanks for watching. And if you want more dark history, don't forget to subscribe.